Hand over $210,000 or you're dead to me. That's what my brother said. Not some stranger. Not a debt collector blowing up my phone at 7 in the morning. My older brother, Derek. Those words came out of his mouth 4 days after I made the mistake of sharing the best news of my life with the people I thought had my back. By the time Sunday rolled around and we all sat down at that dinner table, there were 8 people in that room. One of them was my attorney. One was a pastor my mom had personally called in to guilt-trip me into giving up. And by the time anyone even thought about touching the food, the only person in tears wasn't me. It was Derek. But I'll tell you right now, he wasn't crying about money. And before I go any further, if this story sounds like something you've lived through, if it's already hitting close to home, please hit that like button right now and subscribe. Takes 2 seconds and it means everything to this channel. Drop your city and your local time in the comments below. I read every single one and I love knowing where you're all watching from. Are you watching this from New York at midnight? From Texas on your lunch break? From London with your morning coffee? Tell me. Now let's get into it. My name is Avery. I'm 34 years old. I work as a bookkeeper for a small company just outside Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I grew up in a tiny town called Millbrook, about 20 minutes from the city, the kind of place where everybody knows your car, the guy at the gas station asks about your mama, and gossip travels faster than Wi-Fi. Let me take you back to a Wednesday evening in early April. The night I picked up the phone and made the single worst call of my entire life. First, I need you to understand something about me. I am not the type of person who plays the lottery. I track every dollar in a spreadsheet. I meal prep on Sundays. I bring my lunch to work in glass containers because I once read that plastic seeps chemicals into your food and that information never left my brain. Clip digital coupons. I compare gas prices before I fill up. I am not reckless with money. Not even a little bit. But that Wednesday I stopped at a Quick Trip off Route 22 to fill up my tank, and there was a big Powerball sign sitting right on the counter. The jackpot was at something absolutely wild. I don't even know what came over me. I just slid $2 across and said, "Give me one." The woman behind the register smiled, the kind of smile that says, "Honey, I've seen 1,000 people do this exact thing," and handed me a ticket. 5 days later, I'm sitting on my couch in my pajamas at night, checking the numbers on my phone like a woman going crazy. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely keep the screen still. The jackpot was $1.5 million. For taxes, and trust me, I ran the numbers over and over because I'm a bookkeeper and that's just how my brain works. I was looking at somewhere around $960,000. Not life on a yacht money. Not private island money. But enough to buy a house. Enough to finally stop throwing rent money at someone else's mortgage every single month. Enough to breathe for the first time in years. And the very first thing I did, before I called a financial advisor, before I called an attorney, before I did one single smart thing, I called my mom. "Mom, you are not going to believe this," she screamed. A full, from-the-gut, lung-emptying scream. I heard her yank the phone away and holler into the next room. "Ray! Avery won the lottery. Avery won the lottery." And for just a moment, just one tiny, fragile moment, something warm crept back into my chest. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt like I belonged to these people again. Within an hour, Dad called. His voice was soft. Proud even. "That's my girl." 3 words. 3 words I had been chasing my whole life and never quite caught. Within 2 hours, Derek called. Sweet as peach tea. "Oh my gosh, Avery, I am so pumped for you. We gotta celebrate, sis. Family dinner. Mom's already talking about it." Then he slipped in a question that seemed totally harmless at the time. "So, what's it looking like after taxes?" I told him. Because he was my brother. Because I was still dumb enough to think that good news could just be good news in this family. For about 2 hours, I felt like I had my family back. That was the most expensive feeling of my entire life. Wednesday morning. Not even 24 hours later. Mom called me at my desk at work in what I call her butter voice. Smooth and easy, like she's just making casual conversation and the thing she's about to ask for just happened to come up. Honey, I've been meaning to bring something up. The water heater finally died and the HVAC guy says the whole system needs replacing. The estimate came back at about $18,000. Wouldn't it just be such a blessing if we could finally take care of that this year? I told her I'd think about it. Thursday, Dad called. No warm-up, no how are you, sweetheart. Just, you know what your mother and I gave up for you? Now I need to be real with you here. My father did work hard. I'm not going to take that away from him. But the money he made went to the mortgage, to Derek's travel baseball gear and tournament fees, to a base boat he bought in 2012 and sold 6 years later for less than half what he paid. My college? I paid for every penny of it myself. Student loans I was still paying off at 34 years old. But I didn't say that yet. Not then. Thursday night, Derek called again. The sweetness was completely gone. His voice was flat and cold, like he had been practicing what to say all day. Avery, I need $210,000. Sandra and I are drowning. Credit cards, the second mortgage, the business loan, it's all piling up. You've got the money. This is what family does. $210,000 out of $960,000. More than 22% of everything I had gone in a single ask. I told him I needed time to think. What is there even to think about? I started to answer. He cut me off. If your answer is no, don't bother showing up Sunday. He hung up. I sat in my apartment with the lights off, phone face down in my lap, just staring at nothing. 4 days ago, I was a nobody to these people. One check shows up and suddenly the whole family has a claim on my life. I just didn't know yet how planned that claim was about to get. Quick pause right here, because I want to ask you something before we go any further. This point in the story, do you think Avery should have just given Derek the money to keep the peace? Or was she right to hold her ground? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I want to know what you think, and while you're down there, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next. 'Cause this story is just getting started. Friday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't know right away. When I figured out who it was, my stomach dropped. Pastor Marcus Webb from my mom's church. Avery, your mother reached out to me. She's worried about you and asked me to check in. Scripture reminds us that a generous heart is a blessed heart. I'm praying for you. Call me anytime. My mother had gone to the church. Course she had. That was Linda Carroll's move. When guilt doesn't work at home, bring in backup. But that wasn't even the worst part. Derek had been working the phones too. I started getting texts from people I barely spoke to outside of Christmas. Aunt Patricia, hey honey, Derek called me. Just checking in, everything okay? Uncle Marvin, heard there's some friction. Family's everything, Avery. And then the one that sent me straight to the bathroom floor at work, sitting on the cold tile with my back against the wall just trying to breathe. Grandma Louise, 79 years old. The woman who taught me how to fish off her dock when I was 8 years old. Who always, without fail, saved the last slice of pie for me. Her text read, I'm very disappointed in you, sweetheart. Derek had gotten to her. He had called every single person in this family and told them his version, the one where he was the struggling big brother just trying to keep his head above water, and I was the cold, selfish little sister sitting on a pile of money and refusing to help. I checked Facebook. Derek had posted in the family group, please pray for our family. Some people only show their true colors when money shows up. 42 reactions. 16 comments. Every single one defending Derek. But then something cold hit me, something practical. I had co-signed on Derek's business line of credit 18 months earlier. His flooring company. If he stopped making payments or just stopped paying out of spite to hurt me, it would drag my credit score right down with it. No house. No fresh start. Nothing. And then there was Dad's truck. I'd helped him get that loan 3 years back because his credit alone wasn't good enough. My name was still on it. They had real money-based power over me. Not just the emotional kind. That night, I opened my laptop and did something I absolutely should have done years ago. I'm a bookkeeper. Numbers are what I do every single day. But somehow, in all the years I'd been quietly giving and giving and giving, I had never once added it all up into one single number. I pulled up a blank spreadsheet. Went back through bank records all the way to 2016. Venmo transfers. Wire receipts. Canceled checks. Screenshots of old text messages I'd saved and totally forgotten about. Took me almost 5 hours. March 2017, $28,000 sent straight to Derek Carroll. His flooring business was losing money fast in its first year and he was panicking. His text to me, "Just need to get through year 1, sis. I'll pay you back double." I swear on Dad's grave. Dad was very much alive at the time. Derek never paid back a single cent. November 2019, $21,000. Derek and Sandra had split up for the first time. He needed a security deposit, first and last month's rent, and a lawyer. His exact message, which I still had, "I'll make this right, Avery. You're the only real one in this whole family." He never made it right. They got back together 4 months later and the money was never brought up again. August 2021, $14,500. Dad's truck. He couldn't get approved for a loan on his own. I put down the money and co-signed. When I handed him the paperwork, he said, "We'll sort it out." Nothing was ever sorted. He just stopped bringing it up. February 2023, $19,000. Mom's gallbladder surgery had complications and insurance didn't cover all of it. I paid the hospital directly. When I brought it up gently once, she said, "That's what daughters do for their parents, Avery." I stared at the bottom of the screen. $82,500. $82,500. I had never seen it as one number before. I always thought of each one as its own thing. Crisis here. A rough patch there. Just helping family. But sitting in my apartment at midnight staring at that total, something shifted in me. Not anger. Not even tears. Just this quiet, deep feeling of knowing, like the moment at work when the numbers finally balance after hours of searching for the mistake. I wasn't angry. I was just finally completely awake. I need you to stay with me right here because what happens next is the moment that pushed me from thinking about doing something to actually doing it. And I promise you, you will not see it coming. But first, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it right now. Hit that button. This channel is built on real stories like this one, messy, human, emotional stories about people who finally said enough. And I don't want you to miss a single one. Saturday morning, I was working through what would happen in both situations. If I write Derek that check, I lose more than 22% of everything in one shot. The house I've been saving for since I was 26 disappears. I go back to renting. Back to packed lunches and tight budgets and watching my bank account like it might stop working at any second. And Derek learns for the 4th time in his life that making enough noise actually gets him what he wants. If I say no, Derek runs the story his way. He's already turned Grandma Louise against me. He's already brought in the pastor. Dad has the truck loan hanging over my head. If he stops paying out of spite, my credit score crashes. The business line of credit is another way they can hurt me without ever saying a word. They can squeeze me without ever raising their voices. But all of that was just math. The real moment happened at 3:18 in the afternoon on Saturday when my phone lit up with Derek's number. It wasn't Derek. "Aunt Avery?" A tiny voice. Shaking. My chest stopped. It was Noah. Derek's son. 9 years old. Kid I take to Phillies games every summer. Kid who gave me a birthday card last year that said you're my favorite aunt because he still mixed up his vowels sometimes, and I thought it was the most perfect thing I had ever seen in my life. Derek had put his 9-year-old son on the phone. Daddy says you don't care about our family anymore. Is that true? I shut my eyes so tight my head hurt. Noah, buddy, that is not true. I love you. That will never ever change. Then why is Daddy crying? Something inside me moved past the point of no return. You can come after my money. You can tell your version of this story all over Millbrook. You can get the whole church involved. But the second you put a 9-year-old child on the phone as your last move, that is a line. A line you do not get to walk back over. I hung up. Sat there for 2 full minutes with my eyes closed. Then I picked up my phone and called Jamie Rosenthal. My college roommate. Family attorney. One of the sharpest, most steady people I have ever known. Jay, I need a favor. Are you free Sunday? What time? 5 o'clock. And bring your game face. Now let me back up just a little because something happened on Thursday night that I skipped over and you really need to know. I was heating up leftover pasta when Derek called for the second time that day. I let it ring twice. Then I picked up. Have you made a decision? Cold. Flat. No warmth at all. Yeah. I'm not giving you $210,000, Derek. Silence. 1 second. 2. 3. So that's your final answer. That's my answer. More silence. Then his voice dropped into that low, mean tone I'd known since we were kids sharing a bathroom, the one he used when he wanted to make me feel small. Fine. I'll make sure Noah understands that his aunt chose money over family. Don't put Noah in this. He's already in it. He asked me why Aunt Avery is being selfish. His words, not mine. He's 9, Derek. He said it because you told him to. I stood there staring at the stove. Pasta boiling over. 20 minutes later, a text came in. Not from Derek. From Sandra, his wife. For words, I'm sorry about everything. I read it twice. Sandra had never once texted me on her own in the 6 years she'd been married to my brother. She was always in the background, the one filling up the chip bowls while Derek talked over everyone, the one who smiled and nodded and slipped away to check on Noah when things got tense. 4 words. No explanation. No follow-up. I didn't write back. But I saved it. And I tucked it away in the same part of my brain where I put things that seem small at first but end up meaning everything. Saturday morning, 7:52 a.m. I know the exact time because I had barely slept and I was already staring at the ceiling when Dad's name lit up my phone. Ray Carroll does not call before 9 in the morning unless somebody is in the hospital or he has worked himself up into a rage about something. Nobody was in the hospital. You need to do right by your brother. No good morning. No hey honey. Just a straight order, delivered in the same hard voice he used when I was 13 and tracked mud on his carpet. Dad, that's not how this works. I didn't raise you to act like this. You didn't pay for my college, Dad. I did. With loans I'm still paying off. The silence that followed was the longest I had ever heard from Raymond Carroll. This is a man who has a strong opinion on everything, football, politics, the way his neighbors park. But when I said that, there was nothing. Just the quiet sound of the morning news on in the background. When he finally spoke, his voice was hard and shut down. Sunday dinner. 5 o'clock. Be there. I'll be there. But I'm bringing something with me. He hung up before I could tell him what. I sat at my kitchen table with shaking hands, not from fear. From the fact that I had just talked back to my father for the first time in 34 years. And the sky was still there. The ground was still solid. I was still sitting right there, still breathing, holding a cup of coffee that had gone cold. Called Jamie. She picked up on the first ring. Are you sure about this? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Then I'll be there at 4:30. Wear something you feel strong in. And Avery, don't let them see you sweat. I hung up. Then the spreadsheet one last time. $82,500. I hit print. Every single page. Tacked it all into a plain folder, set it by the front door, and went to bed. I didn't sleep. But I was ready. Kay, I have to stop here and ask you something. Because before I tell you what happened at the grocery store on Saturday afternoon, the part that completely changed how I walked into that dinner, I want to know, do you think Derek knew exactly what he was doing the whole time? Or do you think he genuinely believed he had the right to that money? Tell me in the comments. And if someone in your life has ever done something like this to you, share this video with them. Sometimes people need to hear someone else's story before they find the courage to deal with their own. Saturday afternoon, I just needed the basics: milk, eggs, some stuff from the deli. Normal errand. My mind was split between the spreadsheet and Sunday dinner when I heard my name called from across the parking lot. Avery. Hey, Avery, wait. I turned around. Marcus Cole, Derek's business partner, was 2 rows over, loading bags into the back of his Tahoe. Marcus had been running the flooring company with Derek for about 3 years. I'd seen him at cookouts. Always seemed like a straight, honest kind of guy. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. A few days of stubble. He walked over and looked around like he was checking whether anyone could see us talking. I don't even know if I should be saying this. He let out a long breath. But I've been sitting on this for a week, and I think you have the right to know. I waited. Derek didn't just overspend on the house and run up credit cards. He kept his voice low. He's been taking money straight out of the business bank account. For personal stuff. 8 months of it. I found out 3 weeks ago. I have a lawyer looking into it right now. Sandra doesn't know yet. I just stood there holding a carton of eggs. The $210,000 he's asking you for, Marcus said, it's not to save the house. It's to pay back what he took before Sandra finds out. The ground shifted under me. Not in a big, dramatic way. In that quiet, final way, like the last piece of a puzzle clicking in and you suddenly realize the whole picture was something different than what you thought. Why are you telling me this? He looked me straight in the eye. Because you're a good person and you've already given that family way more than enough. Somebody needed to tell you the truth. He grabbed his bags and got in his truck. I stood in that parking lot long after he drove away. I didn't just have a spreadsheet anymore. I had the real story. That night, my phone buzzed again. I braced for another family member Derek had pulled into his corner. But it was Aunt Carol, my dad's younger sister. She teaches 2nd grade over in Lancaster. She is the quietest person in the whole Carol family, the one who always fades into the background, never picks a side, never makes a fuss. I'm not calling to pressure you, she said before I could even get a word in. I'm calling because Derek called me yesterday, and I want you to know I am not on his side. Then she said something that stopped me cold. Your father borrowed $15,000 from me back in 2019. Told me it was for home repairs. Never paid back a single dollar. When I brought it up, he stopped returning my calls for 4 months. 34 years old. Nobody had ever told me this. Not once. I've watched this exact same thing happen for years, Avery. You are not the first person in this family who's been used like this. You're just the first one with enough money to make the ask big enough to matter. My throat got so tight I could barely talk. Why didn't you ever say anything before? 'Cause he's my brother. And because I honestly didn't think anyone would believe me over him. She paused. I was invited to Sunday dinner. I'll be there. Aunt Carol, thank you. Don't thank me yet. A long pause. There's something else you're going to find out on Sunday. I can't tell you what it is, it's not my place. But I don't want you walking in there not knowing something's coming. She hung up before I could ask what she meant. I sat in my dark apartment for a long time. The folder sat on the coffee table, full, ready, waiting. Tomorrow it would do most of the talking. But tonight, for the first time all week, I didn't feel completely alone. Sunday. 5 o'clock. The sky over Millbrook had that odd gray-pink color you only get in central Pennsylvania in early spring, like the season can't decide if it wants to be warm yet, so it just gives you this strange in-between light that makes everything look a little unreal. Jamie pulled into my parking lot at 4:30 exactly. Black blazer. Leather bag. Low heels. She looked like she was walking into a courtroom, not a pot roast dinner. Ready? Absolutely not. Let's go. We took my car. 15 minutes through town, past the Quick Trip where I bought that ticket, past the school where Carol teaches, past the church where Pastor Webb was probably putting the finishing touches on things. Dad's house is a 2-story brick home on Birchwood Drive, white shutters, a detached garage that has been getting cleaned out for 11 years straight, a patchy front lawn Ray Carroll has never once cared about. 3 cars in the driveway. Pastor Webb's silver Camry. Carol's Honda. Derek and Sandra's minivan. And right there, parked dead center in front of the garage like it owned the place, the truck. 2019 Ford F-150. The one I helped put the down payment on. Still had a VFW sticker on the rear window. I grabbed the folder from the back seat. Jamie grabbed her bag. Mom opened the door before we even knocked. Blue cardigan, the nice one she saves for church. Her eyes went straight to Jamie. Who's this? This is Jamie. She's my friend. She's joining us. Mom's smile went flat. We didn't set a place for her. Then we'll add a chair. I stepped inside. Pot roast and something sweet, maybe apple pie, floating through the air. The dining room was already set. Places carefully arranged. I noticed right away where they'd put me. Directly across from Dad. Like someone on trial facing the judge. Everyone was already seated. Ray at the head of the table, jaw tight. Derek to his right, arms folded, chin up, freshly shaved. He had dressed up for this like it was a show he'd been planning. Sandra next to him, hands in her lap, eyes down on the tablecloth. Aunt Carol at the far end, completely still, watching everything. Pastor Webb beside Mom's empty chair, Bible on the table in front of him. A folding chair had been set up in the corner near the window for Jamie. She looked at it. Looked at me. Sat down without a word. She didn't need to be at the table. She just needed to be in the room. Mom brought out the pot roast. Set it in the center. Nobody reached for anything. Dad didn't waste time. Let's just get to it. Mom reached for Pastor Webb's arm. Avery, Pastor Webb is here because we love you and we're worried about you. Family is the most important thing in this world. Webb cleared his throat. Avery, your mother tells me there's been some tension. I just want to say that being generous. Pastor Webb. I kept my voice calm. Before you go any further, were you given the full story before tonight? He blinked. Derek jumped in before he could answer. The full story is that you got money and now you're turning your back on the people who raised you. Dad knocked the table twice with 2 fingers. Enough. Avery, nobody is asking for all of it. Just help your brother. That's what good people do. Mom's eyes were already red. She'd been getting those tears ready for hours. I didn't raise you to be cold-hearted. I looked around the table. Ray's jaw locked like a door. Derek's arms crossed tight. Mom pulling a napkin into her lap. Webb looking like a man who was slowly realizing he only had half the story. Carol hadn't moved a muscle. I didn't say a word. Not yet. Instead, I reached down, picked up the folder, and set it flat on the table right between the pot roast and the bread rolls. Every single eye in the room locked onto it. It just sat there, plain manila, about a 1/4 inch thick, like a bomb hidden inside a tax form. Before I open this, I have one question. Nobody spoke. Pot roast steamed. TV murmured from the living room somewhere. I looked straight at Derek. In your entire life, how much money have you ever given me? Give me a number. Any number. His eyebrows pulled together. That's not what this is about. It's exactly what this is about. I turned to Dad. Same question. Since I turned 18, how much have you given me? He sat up straighter in his chair. We gave you a roof over your head. We gave you food. We gave you a life. I moved out at 18 and have been taking care of myself ever since. My college, my loans, everything. Mom pressed her hand to her chest. You're keeping score? Is this what we've come to? I looked at my mother, the woman who packed my lunches with little handwritten notes until I asked her to stop. The woman who drove 40 minutes in a snowstorm once to bring me a school permission slip I'd left on the counter. I love her. I want to make that clear. I love her even now, sitting here telling you this. Mom, I never kept score. You forced me to count. I opened the folder. The room went quiet in a way that house had never been quiet my whole life. This was a family that filled every second with sound, sports, arguments, opinions about everything. But when those pages came out, the only sound was paper moving against paper. March 2017. $28,000 sent to Derek Carroll. I read it the same way I would read numbers at work. Teddy. Clear. No shaking in my voice. Purpose, first-year costs for Carroll Flooring. Derek's message from that same week, I turned to the screenshot, reads, I'll pay you back double, sis. I swear on Dad's grave. He never paid back a single cent. Across the table, Derek's chin was still up. But something behind his eyes had changed. First crack. November 2019. $21,000. Derek's first split from Sandra. Security deposit, rent, legal fees. I turned to the next page. Derek's message, November 14, 2019. I'll make this right, Avery. I promise. He never made it right. They got back together 4 months later and the money was never mentioned again. Jamie had quietly walked over and placed a copy in front of Pastor Webb. He looked at it the way you look at a letter you never expected to receive. August 2021. $14,500. Down payment on Dad's truck, plus I co-sign the loan. I watched Ray's hands grip the edge of the table. Dad, have you paid back a single dollar of that? Nothing. Truck was right outside, visible through the window. Everyone in the room knew it. February 2023. $19,000. Mom's medical bills after her surgery. Paid straight to the hospital. Mom's face fell apart. I'm your mother. You don't. What do parents do, Mom? Silence. Total. 7 years. I laid the last page flat on the table. The number printed in bold at the bottom. No extra words. No drama. Just the truth. $82,500. That is what this family owes me. Not the other way around. I closed the folder. Pressed it shut. Laid both hands flat on the table. Carol's voice came from the far end, low, calm, cutting through the room like a cold breeze through an open window. $82,000, Ray. She looked at her brother with clear, steady eyes. And you're sitting here asking her for more. Dad's eyes snapped to Carol. For a second, I thought he was going to explode. But he didn't. He just looked at his little sister, and something I had never once seen on my father's face showed up right there. He looked like he had just been caught. Webb slowly took his glasses off, set them down on the table, rubbed the bridge of his nose. Linda. His voice was careful but firm. When you asked me here tonight, you told me Avery was being selfish with her money. You didn't share any of this with me. Mom reached for his arm. Pastor, it's more complicated than. Seems pretty clear to me. He turned to face me. And what I saw in his eyes wasn't pity or blame. It was something close to respect. I owe you an apology, young lady. I walked into this room tonight with only half the story and treated it like the whole thing. That was not fair to you. I am truly sorry. Derek slapped his palm on the table. This is private family business. She had no right to bring a lawyer and papers to a family dinner. You made it public when you posted on Facebook. I kept my voice completely steady. You made it public when Mom called the pastor. I'm just finishing what you started. Derek opened his mouth. Closed it. His eyes were red now, not the kind you fake. Real. Webb stood up. Picked up his Bible. I think I've heard enough. He looked at Ray and Linda. I'd ask both of you to think hard about what you've heard tonight. Then he came around the table and stopped in front of me. He held out his hand. I shook it. He nodded once to Jamie, who had not said one single word the entire night and didn't need to, and walked to the door. The front door clicked shut. The whole room seemed to breathe out at once. Pot roast had gone cold. Nobody had touched anything. The bread rolls sat untouched next to the folder like a quiet painting of a family that had fallen apart. I waited until Webb's headlights swept across the window and were gone. I'm not here to get even. I'm not here to collect anything. But everyone at this table is going to hear what I'm doing next. Ray was staring out the window. Linda was twisting her napkin. Derek was wiping his face with the back of his sleeve. 1. I'm filing to get my name off the business line of credit. Jamie is filing that paperwork this week. Derek flinched. 2. I'm removing my name from the truck loan. Dad has 90 days to find another co-signer. 3. There will be no more quiet loans, no more money expected to go in one direction with no conversation. If anyone in this family needs real help, we talk about it like adults. No guilt trips, no pastors, no Facebook posts. I paused. And 4, I looked straight at Derek. If you ever put Noah on the phone to do your dirty work again, you will not be hearing from me. Not because I don't love that child. 'Cause he deserves better than being used as someone's weapon. Derek's lip was shaking now. Real tears. Messy ones. The kind you can't plan or control. And then Sandra spoke. Every head in the room turned. Sandra Cole had never once raised her voice in this house in 6 years of marriage. She was always the quiet one in the back, the one who refilled glasses and smiled and took Noah out of the room when things got bad. But she wasn't in the back anymore. Tell them, Derek. Her voice was quiet and completely steady. Derek looked at her. Sandra, tell your family why you actually need $210,000. The silence that followed pressed down on everyone in that room. Derek. Not louder. Just more sure of herself. Tell them. And I watched my brother, the man who had spent an entire week setting up this whole situation, who had called the pastor, turned Grandma Louise against me, and put his 9-year-old son on the phone. I watched him fall completely apart. He put his face in both hands. Sandra looked at Ray. He has been taking money out of the business bank account for the past year, spending it on personal things. His partner found out 3 weeks ago. Derek has been trying to cover it up before I found out, before any of you found out. Her voice broke once, just for a second, then came back strong. Credit card debt and the mortgage are real problems. But the reason he needs this much money this fast is because he owes Marcus Cole. And he was going to use Avery to pay for it, without telling any of you the real reason. Ray's face turned to stone. Linda had completely stopped crying. She was just staring at her son. Derek still had his face in his hands. Sandra looked at me. And in her eyes I saw something I knew very well, the deep, tired look of someone who has been carrying around a secret that was never theirs to carry. I'm sorry, Avery. I knew something was wrong for months. I should have warned you a long time ago. She stood up. No crying. No scene. Noah and I are going to my sister's tonight. She walked out. The front door opened and closed behind her, soft as someone quietly turning off a light. Derek was sobbing now. Not the careful, planned crying from earlier in the night. Real, falling apart grief. Kind that comes when the last story you've been telling yourself finally breaks open. Ray Carroll pushed back from the table. The chair scraped hard against the floor. He stood up. Didn't look at Derek. Didn't look at anyone. Just walked straight down the hallway and shut the bedroom door behind him. Click. No yelling. No final words. Just a man who had run out of ground to stand on and didn't have the words to say so. Linda stood. Followed him to the hallway. Stood there a moment with her hand on the door. Then she turned, walked to the kitchen, and I heard the water turn on. Pot roast hadn't been served. And she was already doing the dishes. That's how Linda Carroll handles the things she can't face. She fills the silence with something to keep her hands busy. I have to stop here, 'cause I know some of you are watching this right now with your mouth open. I was living it and my mouth was open too. This story is hitting home for you. If you've ever been the one in your family who keeps giving and still gets called selfish the second you say no, share this video right now. Tag someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do it now. Hit the bell so you never miss a story. These are the stories I was born to tell. Now, let me tell you how it all ended. That left 4 of us at the table. Me, Derek, Carol, and Jamie in the corner, who had not said one single word the whole night and hadn't needed to. Derek covered his face and cried. Carol looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at me. She reached over and put her hand over mine and didn't say anything at all. She didn't need to. Monday morning, I walked into First Regional Bank on Market Street and started the paperwork to get my name off the truck loan. The officer told me it would take 60 to 90 days. I said I understood. Tuesday, Jamie filed the paperwork on the business line of credit. Wednesday and Thursday, nothing from Ray. Nothing from Derek. Friday, Mom called. I picked up because some habits don't die in a week. You tore this family apart, Avery. I set a boundary, Mom. That's not the same thing. She hung up. Saturday, a card came in the mail. Handwritten. Shaky, old-fashioned handwriting I would know anywhere in the world. Grandma Louise. Dear Avery, I only heard one side of this story and I judged you based on it. I am so sorry, sweetheart. Your grandfather would have been so proud of the woman you are. Please come see me when you're ready. All my love, Grandma. I sat at my kitchen table and cried for the first time in 2 weeks. Not because of the apology, though it meant the world to me, but because it proved that at least one person in my family was able to hear the truth and actually change their mind. That is so much more rare than any lottery win. That same weekend, Carol called again. I need to tell you something, Avery. Your father borrowed $8,000 from your grandmother back in 2021. She never told anyone. He never paid a cent of it back. I closed my eyes. The number didn't surprise me. The fact that it kept happening did. You're not the only one he did this to, Carol said. You're just the first one with the courage to say something about it out loud. 3 weeks after Sunday dinner, Derek and Sandra started marriage counseling. I didn't ask for details, not my business. But Carol told me one thing. Derek had been asked by the counselor to come clean to everyone he had lied to. I felt something complicated when I heard that. Not happiness exactly. Not sadness. Just the weight that comes with knowing one dinner had opened up more than I meant it to. Marcus Cole called me once. Short and to the point. Derek came to me and offered to pay me back in small amounts over time. He asked me to keep lawyers out of it for now. That's a start. I thanked him and let it go at that. Sandra texted once, Noah asks about you all the time. I just want you to know. I wrote back, tell him his aunt loves him. That is never going to change. She sent back a single heart. 3 weeks after that, at 9:17 on a Tuesday night, Derek's number buzzed on my screen. I stared at it. Didn't pick up. Then a text came right after. Aunt Avery, can I come over sometime? I miss you. Love, Noah. The way it was written. All lowercase. The fact that it came from Derek's phone but was clearly written by a 9-year-old who had figured out how to get into his dad's phone and find my name on his own. Called Jamie, voice shaking. Can Derek legally stop me from seeing Noah? You're not in a custody fight. Aunts don't have official visitation rights in Pennsylvania, but you don't need a court order. Just reach out through Sandra. I texted Sandra that night. Tell Noah I love him and I'll see him soon. She wrote back in 3 minutes. He knows. He told me what he did. I didn't stop him. A 9-year-old sneaking his dad's phone to reach out to his aunt because he missed her. Kids always know who truly loves them. Every single time. The months after were quieter than I thought they'd be. Some family members came around. Uncle Marvin sent an apology. 2 cousins reached out. Aunt Patricia sent a card. Derek quietly deleted the Facebook post one afternoon like it had never been written. But screenshots live forever. And I knew at least 5 people in the family had already saved it. Ray Carroll hasn't called his youngest daughter in 4 months. I know he's alive because Carroll gives me updates I don't ask for. He mows the lawn on Saturdays. He goes to the VFW on Tuesdays. He watches the Eagles on Sundays. He does everything the same way he always has, except he no longer picks up the phone to call me. Mom calls every couple of weeks. Every call goes the same way: the weather, the neighbor's new fence, something she saw on the morning news, and then she gets to it. I just wish things could go back to how they were. Every single time I say the same thing. I love you, Mom. But I'm not saying sorry for asking to be treated with respect. She sighs. We say goodbye. She calls again 2 weeks later. The refinance came through in August. My name came off the truck loan. The bank officer called to confirm it, and I said thank you, hung up, and sat in my car in the parking lot for 10 full minutes doing nothing at all. It was done. The last money string tying me to my father's decisions had been cut. I bought a house. A 3-bedroom Cape Cod on Sycamore Lane, 10 minutes from downtown Harrisburg. White front porch. 2 big oak trees in the backyard. Kitchen was old and one of the gutters needed replacing right away, and I didn't care one bit. My name on the deed. My mortgage. My front door. I didn't post it anywhere. No big announcement. The only people who came to the housewarming were Jamie, Carol, Sandra, and Noah. Jamie brought a really good bottle of wine. Carol brought a potted plant and told me it would outlive all of us if I just watered it on Sunday mornings. Sandra brought a card Noah had made by hand, a drawing of the 2 of us that I can only describe as very creative and leave it at that. Noah walked through every single room with his hands behind his back like a little inspector who meant serious business. He stopped in the 2nd bedroom. Empty. White walls. A window looking out onto the backyard. Is this my room? For when I sleep over. I got down on one knee. If you want it to be. He hit me like a little linebacker. Kind of hug a kid has been saving up for weeks. I also did one thing I haven't told anyone in my family about yet. I opened a college savings account and put $40,000 into it. Noah's name on it as the one who gets it. Mine as the person who controls it. Nobody knows. There's no crowd watching. There doesn't need to be. Some things you do because it's the right thing, not because anyone is looking. Carol told me something last month that I keep thinking about. Your dad misses you. She said it slowly, like she wasn't sure she should say it at all. He'll never call. He doesn't have the words. But I see him sitting on that front porch sometimes, just staring at that truck. And I think he knows. I don't know what exactly he knows. Maybe he knows he owes me money. Maybe he knows he owes me something worth a lot more than money. Maybe he's just a 62-year-old man on a porch who built his whole sense of who he was around being the one who took care of everyone. And when that was gone and his youngest daughter showed up doing just fine on her own, it didn't feel like something to celebrate. felt like something that reminded him of what he had lost. I understand all of that. Understanding something is not the same as being okay with it. Feeling sorry for someone is not the same as letting them keep taking from you. You can love a person completely and still say enough. You can leave the door open and still protect what's inside your house. I didn't lose my family. I lost the version of my family that needed me to stay small so they could feel big. I lost the version where I was everyone's safety net and nobody ever once asked how I was doing. And honestly, I don't miss that version at all. What I have now is a house on Sycamore Lane with a porch I sit on every morning with my coffee. I have a plant that has somehow stayed alive in my care. I have a second bedroom with a dinosaur poster on the wall and a sleeping bag in the closet, ready for a 9-year-old who loves me and doesn't know yet that there's a college fund with his name on it. I have Grandma Louise in my recent calls. I went to see her last month. We made blueberry pie from scratch, just the two of us, the way we used to when I was little. She didn't bring any of it up. Neither did I. We just made pie and sat on her back porch and watched the evening light fade, and she patted my hand and said, "You turned out real good, baby girl." That was enough. More than enough. If you are the person in your family that everyone calls when something goes wrong but nobody calls just to check on you, I want you to hear me say this out loud. You are not selfish for drawing a line. You are not cold for wanting to be treated like a real person instead of a bank account. You are not the bad guy in a story that someone else wrote just to make you feel guilty. You are just someone who finally stopped making yourself smaller to fit into a space that was never big enough for who you truly are. And that is not something you ever need to say sorry for. That is something worth protecting with everything you've got. That's my story. I'm still living it. I don't know yet how every part of it ends. Maybe Ray picks up the phone one day. Maybe he doesn't. But the version of me that walked into that dinner room with a folder full of truth and didn't shake once, that's the version I'm choosing to be every single day from here on out. If this story meant something to you, if it hit you somewhere real, please share it right now. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Post it on your page. Tag someone. You never know whose life a story like this might land on at exactly the right moment. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button right now and ring that bell so you never miss a story. This channel is built for people who want real, honest human stories, and we are just getting started. Drop your city and your local time in the comments right now. Are you watching from Chicago? Miami? London? Toronto? Dallas at midnight? Los Angeles on your morning commute? Tell me exactly where you are. I read every comment and I love knowing where this community reaches across the world. And if you have ever had your own Sunday dinner moment, the day you finally stopped letting your family treat you like an ATM, I want to hear your story in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. There's another story waiting for you right in the description below. It hit me just as hard as this one. I think you're going to feel the same. Take care of yourself. And never forget, your peace is worth fighting for.